Try to imagine, if you're an existing homeowner, what you bought and paid for your home, what interest rate you have, and the rest. And then put yourself in the place of somebody attempting right now to be a first-time home buyer, and home prices have had this big escalation in much of the country over a number of years, going back really to 2012. And then mortgage rates that were so low are now roughly double what they were. Man, I mean, it's a really tough thing to be a first-time home buyer. And then classic advice, as much money as possible for a down payment and all the rest. This is a rock and a hard place for first-time home buyers. The home prices are higher, even though they've softened in much of the country and actually fallen from back to where they were, let's say, a year and a half ago in certain metros in the country, but nothing like to where they were even just 5 years ago. So you got the much higher mortgage payment, the much higher home price, much higher carrying costs, and then the question I'm being asked is, hey, I was told I could do this loan program or that loan program or the other loan program, of which there are more than there have ever been, that allow you to do an ultra low down payment. I mean, in addition to the usual suspects, like FHA loans and VA loans, more and more Americans are aware of the USDA loans. As America has sprawled in so many metro areas, there are jurisdictions that used to be considered rural, still are under the USDA loan program. And in a suburban, or let's say exurban area, an outer ring of a metro area, you may be able to get a very favorable terms loan from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, really. But now even Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are offering programs with lower down payments. And the Biden administration recently came up with a new program for first-time home buyers that some will qualify for, that lowers the fees involved with getting a government-supported loan. I mean, they're all more or less government loans, including Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. But the universe of choices with these low down payments is much wider than it was before. Now, you will not have a free lunch, because I mentioned fees. When you do an ultra-low down payment mortgage, you have more ongoing fees because the risk that something would happen in your life, you wouldn't be able to make your payments, for whatever reason you can't sell the home, and you get foreclosed on, goes up as the level of down payment goes down. So this is where my advice comes on these kind of loans. If the monthly payment that you would have in the home that you're looking and buying at a time of unfavorable conditions to be a first-time home buyer, if the payment is roughly equivalent to what you've been paying in rent, and you are interested in staying in that area for a minimum of 7 years, in that home for a minimum of 7 years, don't wish 7 years, but that your job situation, your personal situation, your career is in a position where it's very likely that the odds are strong you can be in that house 7 years or longer, then going with a low down payment loan is okay. Now, why was I so this, and this? Okay. A lot of times someone will take on a home purchase with a significantly higher monthly payment than what you've been used to paying in rent. You didn't have a lot of money for down payment, so you're in there just barely into that home. Really no equity existing in that home. And you're trapped in that higher payment. That's why the first step in having a potential green light on taking out an ultra low down payment mortgage is that the payment is in the general vicinity of your current rent. Second thing is do a true assessment of where your life is personally and professionally. How stable are you in both areas before you would commit to buying a home where, because of the very low down payment, you're not in a position to easily exit that home if either in some way falls apart. And that's a personal assessment you've got to be honest with yourself and make yourself. Over time, regardless of what happens with home values in the intermediate term, over the long term, home values do ride with the general economy, plus a little bit more. So even buying at a time that prices are elevated and interest rates are elevated is not a long-term problem as long as you stay in a home long-term. That's why I put so much emphasis on that. Plus, with the interest rates, inflation still stubborn in the economy. Inflation is significantly lower than it was, but it's still way too high. So the Federal Reserve, doing the manipulation of the money supply they do, has pushed these mortgage rates up indirectly. And ultimately, there will come a time that inflation will be squeezed out and you will have an opportunity to refinance that home into a lower interest rate. That's why time is your friend. The longer the time, the better.